After the fall of Earth, silence covered the stars. There was no green land, no blue oceans, and no human cities left on the home world. Earth was dust, broken by wars and disasters that no one fully remembered anymore. What once was the cradle of humanity was now only ruins floating in the dark void. For generations, people had learned to live far away, scattered in colonies, drifting on space stations, or hiding under the rule of powerful alien empires. To them, Earth was nothing but a lost memory, a story to tell children, a shadow from the past. But one day, the silence broke. Across the cold emptiness of the galaxy, a signal began to echo. It was faint at first, like a whisper inside a storm. Ships with long-range sensors picked it up, confused and afraid. The signal came from the very place where Earth had once been. No one had expected anything to rise again from that dead world. No one thought Earth could speak after so many ages of silence. The message was old, broken, and stretched thin as if it had traveled for eons. Yet it repeated itself again and again. At first, no one could understand the words. The signal was filled with static, mixed with strange echoes that sounded almost like cries. Engineers and scientists listened carefully, removing layers of noise, trying to pull meaning from the chaos. After weeks of work, they heard one word clearly for the first time. The word was simple, heavy, and haunting. It said, "Remember." That single word spread across the colonies like fire. People argued endlessly. Some said it was a trick, maybe sent by aliens to test humanity. Others whispered it was a ghost of Earth, a recording left behind by ancestors. For many, it was hope. If something of Earth survived, maybe humanity had not lost everything. Leaders tried to calm the panic, but they could not control the questions. Who sent the message? Why now? And what did it mean to remember? Among the scattered fleets of humans, old veterans felt their hearts stir. To them, the signal was not just noise. It was a call, a reminder that Earth was not simply gone. Perhaps its spirit still lived, buried deep in the ruins. Some warned that chasing the signal could bring danger. Alien rulers who had long watched humanity grow weak would never allow humans to search for hidden power. But the mystery was stronger than fear. Across distant colonies, small groups of explorers began to dream. They wanted to follow the signal, to discover the truth, to see what waited in the shadows of Earth's grave. In one quiet corner of the galaxy, a retired commander sat alone in his ship, listening to the signal again and again. The word "remember" echoed in his mind, not as a warning, but as a promise. He knew the cost of chasing ghosts. He had seen too many battles and too many broken dreams. Yet something inside told him this was different. This was not only about the past. It was about the future. Slowly, he powered up his ship, ignoring the orders of his colony leaders. He locked onto the direction of the signal, setting his course toward the dark remains of the Sol system. He did not tell anyone. He did not ask for permission. He simply left, guided by the haunting voice of Earth. As his ship crossed the silent void, the signal grew stronger. It twisted into fragments of words, strange tones, and echoes of forgotten voices. He thought he could hear human laughter, cries, and songs buried inside the noise, as if Earth itself was speaking from beyond death. He did not know if it was real or his imagination. But he kept going, deeper and deeper into the shadowed path. Days later, his ship vanished from all scanners. Colonies that tried to contact him received only static. His name disappeared from records, his signal lost in the black. Yet before his disappearance, he sent one final message, a short and broken transmission. It was not a warning or a farewell. It was a single sentence, almost whispered. "The signal is alive." And then he was gone. After that, fear and curiosity grew stronger across human space. If the signal was alive, then what was its purpose? If Earth had truly left behind a message, then who was meant to hear it? More ships began to listen, more minds began to decode, and more hearts began to hope. The haunting word continued to stretch across the cosmos. Remember. It was not just a message anymore. It was a call, waiting for someone brave enough to answer. Far across the galaxy, humanity survived not as one people but as scattered fragments spread across the stars. After Earth's fall, some found safety in small colonies hidden on barren moons, some lived aboard vast orbital stations circling alien suns, and others survived under the watchful eyes of powerful alien empires who allowed them to exist only as servants, traders, or workers. Humans were no longer the proud children of Earth, but wanderers with no true home. The haunting signal from Earth's grave reached all these broken groups like a whisper in the dark. To some it was nothing but old noise, but to many it was hope, and to others it was danger. Among the scattered fleets, rumors began to spread of the commander who had dared to follow the signal and vanished. His final words, "The signal is alive," made many restless. Leaders of the colonies tried to silence the talk, warning people not to chase ghosts, but once a seed of mystery is planted it cannot be stopped. Across human settlements, those who still remembered Earth's history felt something awaken inside them. A young scholar living in the Outer Rim stayed awake many nights decoding fragments of the signal, convinced that it carried more than a single word. In the core colonies, a retired engineer told stories of ancient Earth machines that could send messages across ages, machines so powerful even alien empires feared them. And on distant trading routes, human pilots whispered to each other that the signal was not only a message but a map. While leaders and governors dismissed these ideas, calling them foolish dreams, ordinary people listened. They were tired of living as scattered wanderers, always second to aliens, always treated as children without a home. The word remember carried more than memory, it carried defiance. It reminded them that they once belonged to a world that was theirs alone, a place where no alien voice could rule them. In one hidden colony deep in the shadows of an asteroid field, a group of starfarers gathered in secret. They were not soldiers, not leaders, just ordinary men and women who carried in their hearts the stories of Earth. They met in a cold hangar, their ship old and rusting, but their voices burning with belief. "The signal is calling us," one of them said, his hands shaking as he replayed the strange sound. "If we do not answer it, then who will?" Another warned of the danger. The aliens who ruled the nearby sectors had already banned any talk of the message. They claimed it was poison, a trap left behind by ancient wars. If they caught humans searching for it, they would destroy them. But silence could not erase the feeling inside them. They had lived too long as shadows, too long as forgotten children. They wanted to know the truth. Slowly, they prepared their vessel, fixing broken engines, gathering supplies, and hiding their plans from alien patrols. They knew the risk. They knew they might never return. Yet they felt something greater than fear, the pull of destiny. As the small crew worked, they were not the only ones who felt the call. In another corner of space, far from them, another group of humans also began to plan a journey, believing the signal was meant for them. Across different colonies, across different fleets, scattered humans began to look toward the same direction, toward the ruins of their lost world. But one crew would make the first move. They called themselves starfarers not because they were mighty or skilled, but because they carried the spirit of those who had once left Earth to wander the stars. On the eve of their departure, their leader, a quiet woman with scars from old battles, gathered her crew. Her voice was steady, her eyes sharp. "We are not chasing ghosts," she said. "We are chasing truth. If the signal is only a memory, then let us be the ones to hear it. If it is more, then let us be the ones to answer." The ship rose silently from the asteroid field, engines glowing faintly as it disappeared into the void. Across the colony, those who knew of their mission watched in silence, their hearts filled with fear and hope. No one knew what they would find, but everyone understood what it meant. For the first time in ages, humanity was not running, not hiding, not bowing. They were moving toward something greater. As the ship followed the path of the haunting signal, the crew felt the weight of countless lives behind them. Every fragment of the signal whispered in their ears like a voice from the grave of Earth. Remember. The word no longer felt like a warning. It felt like a command. It felt like the beginning of something that could awaken all of humanity. Far away, hidden in the shadows of alien empires, watchers noticed the movement. Strange reports of human ships vanishing into forbidden space reached alien councils. Warnings spread that humans were listening to a dangerous echo. Orders were prepared to stop them. But the starfarers did not know this yet. All they knew was that they were chasing a voice older than time, a voice that refused to die, a voice that still belonged to Earth. And as they vanished into the black sea of stars, the haunting message stretched across the cosmos once more. Remember. The starfarers who followed the haunting signal soon discovered that the message was not as simple as it first seemed. At first all they could hear was the single word, remember, but as their ship traveled deeper into the void the signal began to grow clearer, unfolding like layers of a hidden voice buried under dust. Strange codes appeared inside the transmission, patterns of numbers and sounds that repeated in endless cycles. The ship's systems struggled to process it, and the crew spent sleepless nights listening, recording, and decoding. At last, one of them realized the patterns were not random at all. They were written in an ancient human language, a language spoken long before the fall of Earth, one that most colonies no longer taught. Slowly, painfully, they translated fragments, and what they uncovered filled them with awe and dread. The message spoke of something hidden, something preserved in secret during Earth's final days. It hinted that Earth's fall had not been the true end, but part of a greater design. Earth never truly died, the message whispered through broken static. These words chilled the crew because they suggested that someone or something had survived beyond the grave of their lost world. While they argued about what it meant, the message grew louder, almost insistent, as if it wanted to be heard fully. But danger soon followed them. The aliens who ruled nearby sectors had already noticed the rising noise of the signal and the growing unrest among human colonies. These alien rulers had long feared the memory of Earth, for they knew that if humans remembered their strength, they could rise again. And so the aliens declared the signal forbidden. They spread warnings through their controlled channels, telling all colonies that the echo from Earth was nothing more than poison left behind to destroy minds. They called it a ghost, a trap, a curse. Do not listen, they commanded, or you will be consumed. Patrol ships were sent to hunt down anyone chasing the signal, and entire colonies were threatened with punishment if they allowed their people to speak of it. Fear spread quickly, but so did curiosity. The more the aliens tried to silence the message, the more humans wanted to know the truth. On hidden networks, whispers grew louder. Smugglers carried fragments of the signal from one station to another. Secret groups began to study it in the dark, their eyes burning with the fire of discovery. The starfarers who first uncovered the coded words became legends, though no one knew if they still lived. Their recordings traveled faster than they did, sparking hope and rebellion. For the first time in generations, humanity felt the pull of unity, not under alien chains, but under a voice that came from their own forgotten past. Inside the starfarers' ship, tension grew. Some believed the message was a gift, a final memory left by Earth to guide them. Others feared it was a trap, that perhaps the aliens were right, and chasing it would lead them into destruction. Night after night they argued, their voices sharp, their hope fighting their fear. But each time the signal repeated its haunting words, Earth never truly died, they felt the weight of destiny pressing down on them. Then came another discovery, one that none of them expected. Hidden in the signal was not only language but also a strange rhythm, a pulse that matched the beat of a human heart. When they compared it across different recordings, they realized it was not accidental. The signal was alive, not in the way of a machine, but in a way that suggested it carried memory, intention, maybe even will. This terrified some of the crew. Could a message think? Could a signal breathe across time and space as if it were alive? Yet the leader of the crew stood firm. If it is alive, she said, then it is calling us for a reason. Her words silenced the fear for a moment, but deep inside everyone knew that whatever truth waited at the end of this journey would change everything. Beyond their ship, across the colonies, the alien rulers grew harsher. They burned records, shut down communication lines, and punished anyone who dared speak of Earth. But the forbidden message could not be stopped. It spread like fire through dry wood, feeding on the hunger of humans who had lost too much. In dark corners, children whispered it as though it were a prayer. In forgotten stations, elders wept when they heard the word, remember, as if the ghosts of their ancestors spoke directly to them. And in the silence of space, the starfarers continued to chase it, their ship drifting toward the unknown. They did not know if the path led to salvation or ruin, but they knew one thing with certainty: they could no longer turn back. For the forbidden message was not only about the death of Earth, but about the rebirth of something greater. Every beat of the signal told them that their destiny was waiting, hidden in the ruins of the world they had once called home. The starfarers had made their choice, and now their path was set. Their ship, old and worn, drifted through the vast ocean of stars, guided only by the haunting signal that refused to die. Each day the crew studied its patterns, its rhythms, its strange whispers that seemed to grow stronger the deeper they traveled. The further they went from the safe routes of the colonies, the more dangerous the journey became. Alien patrols hunted nearby systems, searching for those who dared to follow the forbidden echo, and so the crew kept their lights dim, their transmissions silent, hiding in the shadows of asteroids and slipping through forgotten trade lanes. The silence of space pressed down on them, broken only by the endless beat of the signal repeating its command to remember. At first the journey seemed empty, but soon they began to find traces of something left behind. An abandoned outpost drifted in the darkness, its walls covered with human markings so old that dust floated like snow inside the halls. They searched the broken structure, and in one chamber they found recordings, voices speaking in ancient tongues, warning and guiding as if they had been left for anyone who might come after. The messages spoke of flight, of humans escaping Earth during its final hours, carrying with them secrets that must never fall into alien hands. The starfarers felt the weight of history pressing on their shoulders. They were not the first to follow this path. Others had come before, and perhaps others had fallen before reaching the end. But the signal called them forward, and they could not stop. As the days turned into weeks, the journey became more strange. Shadows flickered across their sensors, as if something unseen followed them. At night, when the crew rested, some swore they heard voices whispering through the static of the signal, voices that did not belong to the living. One crew member claimed he heard his mother's voice, long dead, calling his name through the radio. Another said he dreamed of Earth's oceans, though he had never seen them in his life. Fear grew inside the ship, but so did determination. The leader reminded them that great truths were always hidden in darkness, and that Earth's final message was not meant for the weak. Each discovery added to the mystery. They found wreckage of ancient ships, their designs unmistakably human but far older than anyone thought possible. How had these ships traveled so far? Why had they been abandoned in the cold dark? Some of the wrecks carried fragments of the same signal, as if their systems had been programmed to keep repeating the haunting call even after the crew had long perished. It was as though the message was not only alive but determined to reach the future no matter the cost. The deeper they went, the more the crew began to believe that they were part of something greater than themselves. Yet danger was never far. Alien patrols grew closer, following faint energy trails. One night the crew had to shut down their ship completely and drift silently while enemy sensors swept the area. They floated for hours, hearts pounding, afraid that even a heartbeat might give them away. When the patrol finally passed, the crew reignited their engines and pushed forward, more certain than ever that what they sought was dangerous enough to be feared by powers far beyond their strength. Then came a moment that changed everything. The signal suddenly shifted, its rhythm turning into a strange map of light and sound. At first it looked like chaos, but then the navigator realized it was a star chart, pointing toward a system that did not appear on any of their maps. The coordinates led to a place where no trade routes passed, a place marked only as empty on alien charts. Yet the signal was clear: that was where they must go. The crew argued, torn between the danger of entering an uncharted system and the impossible pull of the signal. At last their leader made the choice. If Earth speaks, then we must listen. Whatever waits there is meant for us. With that, the ship turned its course toward the hidden system. The crew sat in silence, knowing they were leaving behind everything familiar, stepping into the unknown where no one could protect them. The stars grew fewer, the void darker, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. As they approached the edge of the system, their sensors flickered with strange readings. Energy pulses rippled through space, old but powerful, as if something immense was sleeping there. The signal grew louder, almost urgent, like a heartbeat pounding in their ears. The crew stared at their screens, their faces pale with awe and fear. They had reached the first true step of their journey, and they understood that whatever waited for them was not just memory but something alive, something hidden since the fall of Earth. And as the ship crossed into the shadow of the dead system, the haunting message whispered again, not faint, not broken, but strong and clear as if spoken directly into their souls. Remember. The hidden system lay before them, silent and dark, its stars long dead, its planets nothing more than broken stones drifting through shadows. The crew of the Starfarer ship moved slowly, their engines low, afraid that even the smallest sound might awaken whatever power lingered in this place. Their sensors flickered with strange readings that could not be explained, bursts of energy that seemed to come from nowhere, shapes moving just beyond the edge of their vision. The haunting signal grew louder with every step they took into the void, but it was no longer only a voice. It had become something deeper, something that reached into their minds, stirring old memories, dreams, and fears. Some of the crew began to hear whispers at night. One man swore that when he closed his eyes, he saw the oceans of Earth rolling under blue skies, though he had never walked on a world with water. Another said he heard the cries of children laughing, voices of a past that should have been gone forever. The ship systems recorded strange sounds inside the static, fragments of voices that did not belong to the crew. Sometimes they were clear, sometimes broken, but always human. The voices begged, warned, and sometimes even sang, as if echoes of the dead had been caught inside the endless signal. The crew argued over what it meant. Some said the signal was alive, carrying the memories of those who had died when Earth fell. Others whispered that they were losing their minds, trapped in the grip of something unnatural. But each time fear threatened to stop them, the signal gave them another clue, another fragment of the hidden truth, and they pressed forward. Soon the ship discovered an enormous field of wreckage drifting through the system. Broken vessels, shattered stations, and pieces of long-forgotten machines floated in silence, as if a great battle had taken place here in the distant past. Many of the wrecks were human, but their designs were older than any history the crew knew. The sight filled them with both pride and sorrow. Humanity had once been strong enough to reach this far, yet it had fallen, leaving only bones of steel behind. As they passed through the graveyard of ships, the signal pulsed harder, almost guiding them. The crew activated searchlights, scanning the wrecks, and then they saw it, a massive structure half buried in the remains of a dead moon. It was not alien, nor was it a ship they recognized. It was something different, something built with care and purpose, as if it had been designed to wait in silence until the right moment. The signal was strongest here, echoing from the structure's walls like a heartbeat. With trembling hands the crew prepared to enter, their ship locking onto the surface of the ancient ruin. The air inside was thin, stale, and filled with dust that glittered in their lights like frozen stars. They moved carefully through long, empty corridors, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Symbols covered the walls, markings in languages no one alive could read, but some of the crew felt they almost recognized them, as if buried deep inside their blood. At the heart of the structure they found a chamber filled with machines still alive with a faint glow, though they had been untouched for countless centuries. In the center was a single console that pulsed with the rhythm of the signal. When they touched it, the room filled with voices. Not one voice, not many, but countless voices overlapping, crying, whispering, remembering. The crew fell to their knees as the sound washed over them. They were not just hearing words, they were hearing memories, the very soul of Earth itself carried across time. The voices told stories of the final days of Earth, of people who refused to let their legacy die, of secrets stored in hidden places, waiting for the day when their children would return. One crew member wept as he heard a lullaby his grandmother used to sing, though she had never been near Earth. Another heard the sound of waves crashing, a sound he had only read about in books. The echoes filled their hearts with both sorrow and strength. They understood now that the signal was more than a call. It was a vessel, carrying the memory of an entire world, refusing to vanish even when its body was gone. But as they listened, the voices changed. They grew sharper, more urgent, as if warning them of something near. The consoles flickered, the walls trembled, and the signal pulsed like thunder. The leader of the crew ordered everyone back to the ship, fear twisting in her gut. Something was happening. Something had been awakened by their presence. As they ran through the dark corridors, the whispers followed them, no longer gentle, but harsh, almost desperate. They reached their ship and launched from the surface as the structure began to shake apart, its pieces breaking into space like shards of glass. From the void beyond, their sensors caught movement, shapes rising from the wreckage, shadows that had been waiting, silent watchers now awakened. The crew stared in horror as unknown ships, black and ancient, emerged from the darkness, their forms unlike anything they had ever seen. The signal screamed in their ears, no longer a whisper, but a roar that filled every corner of the ship. And in that terrible sound one message rose above the chaos, clearer than ever before, a message that chilled them to the bone. They must not find it. The black ships that rose from the wreckage did not chase the starfarers, but their presence was enough to fill the crew with dread. They moved like shadows, silent and patient, as if guarding something hidden in the heart of the dead system. The crew pushed their vessel deeper into the darkness, following the pulse of the signal that still burned inside their ship like a living heart. Days passed as they drifted between broken moons and shattered worlds, always hearing the whispers of the haunting echo. At last, they reached a place unlike anything they had ever seen, a colossal structure orbiting the remains of a collapsed star. It was larger than any station they knew, vast enough to swallow entire fleets, yet it floated in silence, its surface cracked and scarred by age. The signal roared here, loud and clear, pouring into their ship as if the structure itself was alive and calling to them. Fear and awe gripped the crew as they prepared to enter. They left their ship in small teams, crossing into the ancient ruin through vast gates that opened as if waiting for them. Inside, the halls were lit by a faint glow that had survived countless centuries. Walls were covered with symbols carved deep into the stone and metal, markings of earth long forgotten. The air was thin, heavy with the weight of history, and every step they took echoed like a drumbeat. The deeper they went, the stronger the whispers became. They no longer came only from the signal but from the walls themselves, voices rising and falling like a chorus of memories. Some of the crew began to break under the pressure. One man collapsed, screaming that the walls were showing him his own death. Another claimed he saw visions of earth burning, oceans boiling, skies tearing apart. The leader forced them to continue, reminding them that they had come this far and that the truth was near. At the heart of the ruin they discovered a chamber filled with strange machines, taller than towers, their surfaces glowing with lines of light that pulsed like veins. In the center was a single core, round and alive with energy, beating in rhythm with the signal. When the crew approached, the core responded, flooding the chamber with images. Earth appeared before them, whole and bright, its blue oceans shining like jewels, its green lands stretching wide. They saw cities alive with millions of people, voices laughing, children playing, families living. For a moment the crew felt joy, as if they had been given back what was lost. But then the images shifted. The skies grew red, fire consumed the cities, and the oceans boiled into steam. The ground split apart, swallowing everything, and the world of their ancestors fell into silence. The crew fell to their knees, unable to look away, forced to witness the final destruction of the home they had never known. Yet the vision did not end there. They saw survivors, small groups of humans leaving Earth on desperate ships, carrying with them fragments of their knowledge and their history. They saw them scatter across the stars, pursued by enemies, hunted, broken, but still alive. They saw those same survivors creating the signal, pouring their memories and voices into machines designed to last through time itself. It was not only a message but a vault, a living memory that could not die. The crew realized with awe that the signal was not just a call, it was the very essence of Earth, a seed of humanity's soul waiting for its children to find it. But the vision grew darker once more. They saw shadows moving in the void, alien forces closing in, determined to erase humanity's legacy forever. The voices of the memory grew louder, desperate, warning again and again. They must not find it. Protect it. Remember. The chamber shook as the vision ended, and one of the machines cracked, spilling sparks across the floor. The crew barely escaped as the ruin trembled, as though awakening from a long sleep. Back on their ship, their hearts raced, their minds filled with what they had seen. They now knew the truth of the signal, but they also knew the danger. If they could hear it, then so could others, and not all would come seeking to remember. Some would come to destroy. As they pulled away from the massive structure, the shadows of the black ships reappeared, circling in silence, watching. The crew felt the weight of destiny pressing down on them. They were no longer chasing ghosts. They were carrying the memory of Earth itself, a treasure and a curse, and the universe would not let them hold it without a fight. And as they fled into the darkness, the signal followed, whispering in their ears with the voices of 1,000 ancestors. Remember! The starfarers returned to their ship shaken by what they had witnessed inside the colossal ruin, their minds heavy with images of Earth's last breath and the desperate survivors who had carried its memory into the stars. For hours none of them spoke, each trapped inside their own thoughts, haunted by the warning that had echoed through the chamber. They must not find it. The leader sat alone in the command chair, staring at the endless black beyond the window, her heart pounding with the weight of what they now carried. At last she broke the silence. The signal is not only a memory, she said, her voice steady but cold. It is a call. It was left for us, for all humans, to find. And now we know why the aliens fear it. Her words stirred the crew, for deep inside they had felt the same truth. The message was not random, not an echo by chance. It had been created with purpose. It was a seed of knowledge, a reminder of what humanity had once been and what it could become again. They gathered around the console where the decoded fragments of the signal still played, lines of code mixed with words and rhythms that carried hidden meaning. Piece by piece they worked, their tired eyes and shaking hands refusing to stop. And slowly the message revealed itself fully for the first time. It was not just a warning and not just a memory. It was a guide. The voices of Earth's last survivors had left behind instructions, scattered across the cosmos, teaching future generations where to find hidden vaults of knowledge, where to recover lost technologies, where to gather the strength of a fallen world. Earth's death had not been the end but a beginning, a plan to ensure that even in ruin humanity would never vanish. The crew sat in stunned silence as the full truth unfolded. Earth had prepared for its fall. The survivors had known they could not save the planet, but they had sworn to save the spirit of their people. They had planted seeds of knowledge in distant systems, hidden caches waiting for their children to grow strong enough to find them. The signal was the key, the first piece of the puzzle, calling across the ages for humanity to rise again. Yet the message carried a shadow. The voices spoke of enemies, ancient and powerful, who had feared humanity even before Earth's collapse. These enemies had tried to erase not only the planet but its memory, to scatter its children and keep them weak. The survivors had fought to hide the truth, but even now, after so many centuries, those enemies still lingered, still searching, still waiting for a chance to finish what they had started. The black ships the crew had seen were not random watchers. They were guardians placed by those enemies, left behind to ensure that no one ever reached the ruins, no one ever heard the call. Now that the starfarers had unlocked the signal, the danger was greater than ever. If they carried this truth to the colonies, they would awaken hope in the hearts of their people, but they would also draw the full fury of those who wished humanity to remain broken. The crew argued fiercely over what to do. Some said they must keep the secret, for revealing it would bring destruction to every human colony. Others shouted that silence would mean surrender, that hiding the truth would dishonor Earth and betray the voices that had sacrificed everything to send the message. The debate raged through the ship until at last the leader stood, her eyes burning with determination. "We were not chosen by accident," she said. "We found the signal because we were meant to. Earth entrusted its memory to us. If we hide it, then Earth truly dies. But if we share it, then maybe humanity can rise again." Her words silenced the fear, and though doubt remained, the crew nodded one by one. They would not keep the truth buried. They would carry it to their people, no matter the cost. But as they set their course back toward human space, the signal shifted once more, its voice stronger and clearer than ever. It no longer sounded like a whisper or a cry. It sounded like command, like destiny. "Children of Earth," it said, "you are not lost. You are the last flame. Carry it. Protect it. Rise." The crew felt the words burn into their very souls, filling them with a strength they had never known. For the first time, they did not feel like wanderers or broken exiles. They felt like heirs of a legacy far greater than themselves. Yet in the darkness behind them, the black ships stirred, their engines awakening, their shadows growing. The guardians of silence had seen too much, and they would not allow the truth to spread without a fight. The starfarers tightened their grips on the controls, knowing that the path ahead was no longer only a journey of discovery. It was a war for survival, a war to protect the truth of who they were. And as their ship burned toward the stars of human colonies, the signal echoed inside them, a promise and a warning both: the age of silence is ending. The journey back to human space was not quiet. The signal no longer whispered like a faint ghost but roared like a storm inside the ship, filling the crew with visions and memories of a world long gone yet never truly lost. Every night they dreamed of Earth, its oceans, its green fields, its skies filled with blue light. Some woke in tears, some woke in anger, but all woke with the same burning resolve. They were no longer wandering children of a broken world. They were the carriers of a message, the last keepers of a flame that could reignite the future of their people. Yet the black ships followed. At first they lingered in the shadows, silent watchers, but soon they began to close the distance, their dark hulls cutting through the void like blades. The crew pushed their vessel to its limits, but they knew escape would not last forever. One night, as the stars shifted around them, the signal surged again, its voice booming through the ship like thunder. Children of Earth, unite. Stand. The flame must live. The leader felt the words strike her heart and knew this was not only a call for them but for all humanity. They could not carry the truth alone. They needed to share it before the shadows destroyed them. So they sent fragments of the message across secret channels, broadcasting to hidden colonies and distant outposts. The words of Earth spread like sparks across dry grass, lighting fires of hope where none had burned for centuries. At first, the colonies did not believe. Many thought it was only another ghost story, another false promise carried by the void. But then the signal itself arrived, woven with the voices of the ancestors, carrying proof of Earth's last moments, proof of humanity's survival plan. And one by one, the colonies began to answer. Ships stirred in forgotten docks, leaders called secret councils, and whispers spread among the people. Humanity, broken and scattered, began to remember. Yet the enemies had been waiting for this. As soon as the fragments of the message crossed the void, dark fleets awoke. Not only the black ships but entire armadas of silence, forged to erase humanity's spark once and for all. The starfarers saw the danger closing in but did not turn back. Their course was clear. They would lead the enemy straight into the light of their people, forcing the colonies to face the truth that silence would no longer save them. The final chase burned across systems, through asteroid fields and broken worlds. The crew fought with every weapon their ship carried, outnumbered but unbroken. They bought time with their courage, time for the message to spread, time for the colonies to awaken. At last they reached the edge of human space, where the scattered fleets of humanity waited. What they saw filled their hearts with fire. Dozens of ships, old and scarred, had gathered, their crews answering the ancient call. They were not powerful compared to the enemy, not armed with the machines of legend, but they were united, and that alone gave them strength. The leader stood on the bridge, her voice strong as steel. This is the moment Earth prepared us for. We are not alone. We are not lost. We are humanity, and today we rise. The fleets clashed in the shadow of a dying star, light and darkness colliding in a storm of fire. The enemy ships struck with fury, their weapons tearing through hulls, but the humans fought with something greater than fear. They fought with memory, with the voice of Earth burning inside them, with the knowledge that they carried the last flame. The starfarer's ship was at the heart of the battle, its engines screaming, its weapons blazing, its crew refusing to yield. Again and again they were struck, yet they pressed forward, broadcasting the signal louder and louder until every human ear across the colonies heard it. The voices of Earth rose above the chaos, clear and unbroken. Remember who you are. Remember where you came from. Remember Earth. And in that moment something awakened. The fleets that had been weak and divided surged with new strength, their ships fighting as one, their courage turning the tide. The enemy began to falter, shadows breaking before the fire of unity. One by one the black ships fell, their silence shattered by the roar of human defiance. At last the Starfarer's ship, broken and burning, released the final burst of the signal, carrying the complete memory of Earth to every colony, every outpost, every wandering soul of humanity. The leader, her voice fading, whispered one last command: "Rise." And across the stars, humanity did. They rose from fear into strength, from silence into song, from ruin into rebirth. The battle did not end all threats, but it ended the age of forgetting. For the first time since Earth's fall, the children of humanity looked to the stars not as lost exiles but as heirs of a legacy greater than any darkness. The signal was no longer just an echo. It had become a call, a fire, a promise. And so humanity remembered. And so humanity rose.